Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Summit, New Jersey. My name is Tuli Patel, and this morning I am wearing a red top, which is block printed, as well as glasses, and I have short hair and flats on my feet. It's great to see you all. A warm welcome to everyone. If you are joining us online, please won't you take a minute to introduce yourself so that we can get to know one another in the chat. We gather as a liberal, no mic. Mic is, hello mic. Is that better? Mic is better. Oh, because they're talking in the lobby. Okay. You're welcome to, I guess, end your conversations and come in. I was going to say bring your conversations in here, but that wouldn't work. We gather as a liberal religious community with love at our center, working towards justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. A warm welcome to you all. We acknowledge that this morning we gather on the ancestral lands of the Lenape, and we affirm as well the continued community of the Munsee Ramapo Lenape, and we affirm their right to engage in shared ritual as well as to live in peace and safety. Yes, can we agree on that? Yes. We are in relationship with the Ramapo Munsee Lenape through shared rituals as well as our financial contributions to the Sweetwater Cultural Center. And if you would like to find out more and get involved further, please let Reverend Robin know and we can move you along towards that. For now, I invite you to take a deep breath in. Settle yourself comfortably into the sacred hour of worship. And let us begin. We're going to start this morning with a unison reading of our congregational covenant. You remember how I told you love is at the center, and that is what this covenant does as well. So I invite you to read along with me, and let us begin. Love guides this congregation. Love calls us daily to acts of liberation grounded in anti-racism. We affirm that we live in the complexity of intersectionality and that building healthy and loving relationships is spiritual practice, requiring both inward and outward focus. Thus, we covenant to listen deeply, speak compassionately, express gratitude, and embrace our unique diversity. We endeavor to communicate honestly and with compassion, particularly when we are in conflict. When we hurt one another, we will try to make amends, forgive and reconnect with an intent to repair, change, and grow. Our purpose is to be radically inclusive, feed the human spirit, and heal the world. In celebration of the common person known as us, and with the aspiration of beloved community before us, we will do our best to abide by this covenant. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Nisa Iwama, and I'm the Director of Music Ministry. It is so nice to be with you today, here in the room, and with you who are watching online. Today we have the Beacon Soprano and Altos sections to help us with music, as well as John O'Neill on piano. And we're going to start this morning with hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us. I invite you to stand in any way possible and join in singing.
morning. I'm Helen Kerr. I'm the worship associate this morning. I'm an older white woman with mostly white hair wearing turquoise and black who answers to she, her. In the circle, nothing begins or ends. In the circle, everything connects. In the circle, nothing goes to waste. The wing leaves its print in the air. The song echoes through the cosmos. Causes flow into effects, effects back into causes. No matter how long the arc, the circle never forgets.
Good morning, Beacon. Ooh.
That mic is a little hot.
Good morning. Is that a little better? Not blasting your ears off? Thank you. I'm Reverend Robin. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a member of the lead ministry team. I am a middle-aged white woman who is elevated on a regular basis, but I'm short. And I am attired this day in a multicolored stole in the fuchsia, pink, and mauve realm. And I have exciting news for you beyond the colors of my stole, which is today is a, oh wow, that was even more sound effect than can I do it again? No, it's just a one-time thing. All right, we have, what's this, friends? The Wonder Box. So I need a volunteer or two who wants to open the Wonder Box. Raise your hands high. I don't know, Dr. Tooley, who do you think?
Lilia and Anna over there.
Okay, come on.
Lilia and Lucy can put.
Yeah, you can come up together. We can take more than, yeah, we can
Leila,
bring
you can
friends. Yeah, come on, Lila. Let's just do it together. We'll do Wonder Box together. Okay, I'm gonna ask your name and your grade. No pressure. Ready?
Hi, my name is Lucy, and I'm in 3rd grade. My name is Leela. I'm in 4th grade.
All right, Lucy and Leela, are you ready for the Wonder Box? Head on up. Can we get a drum roll? Go for it. What do you see inside?
A stop sign. There's a lot of signs.
There's a lot of signs. Do you want to take them out and show the congregation?
I have a do not enter sign.
Okay, and Leela?
I have a stop sign.
Okay, and Lucy, it looks like you got a couple more. What do you have?
I have a heart sign.
Okay, what's the other one you got over there?
I've also got a hospital sign.
Hospital sign. Do you have any idea why we might have these signs? What do you think? Any guess? You don't know? It's okay not to know. I wouldn't know either. It's kind of a tricky wicket this morning.
That's why we have the time for all ages, and we're going to tell you.
But before we do, can we give a round of applause and thank you to Lucy and Leela? You never know what's in the Wonder Box. It could be alive. You were very brave. Thank you.
Thank you all. So the hospital sign, or what we call the Red Cross, we associate most strongly in America with a person named Clara Barton. She was born on Christmas Day. Can you imagine being born on Christmas Day? What a gift. She was born on Christmas Day in 1821 in Grafton, Massachusetts. She was born into a Universalist family. We often don't hear about Universalist ancestors, right? We talk a lot about our Unitarian ancestors. But Clara Barton was born into a Universalist family. She was a shy child. She had older brothers and sisters. She was the youngest. And what she loved to do best was to take care of people. Her older brother fell off the roof. Why he was on the roof, I don't know, and I would not encourage anybody to find out. And she begged her parents to let her take care of him. So what do you think she had to do to take care of him? Let me hear. Go ahead, Kirk. She probably had to feed him. What else did she need to do? Somebody else? Go ahead, Lucy. She probably had to get him food and medicine, maybe some ice for his head. I don't think they had refrigerators then, so that would have been an interesting adventure, right? She had to feed the dog if they had a dog. Yes, she was a busy person. Abigail, what do you have back there? What did she have to do to take care of her brother? Cook, yes. She probably... Clothes, yes. So she probably had to bring him his clothes too. So she was a very busy little person. Now, even though I said she was shy, she was also very strong. She could run as fast as any boy, and she could beat them at wrestling. Do we all know girls who can do that? Yes, we definitely do. This is Women's History Month, just by the way. In those days, remember 1821. Oh, my math people, how many years ago was that? 200 and something. Thank you. Excellent. In those days, over 200 years ago, there were no cars, but every Sunday, Clara went with her family to the Universalist congregation in Grafton, Massachusetts. How do you think she got there? What'd she do? Horse! What sounds do horses make? Everybody? Yes, okay. So there she goes every Sunday morning to the Universalist congregation, and there she learns that God is love and that all life is sacred and nothing that is born should ever be destroyed. Yes? Okay. So Clara grows up to be a teacher, and she is teaching in the Washington, D.C. area when civil war breaks out. And she sees soldiers coming home and in need of clothes and food, and she spends her own money in buying them what she needed, but she's not happy. It's not enough for her. She wants to be at the battle lines tending to the soldiers directly, but she's not allowed. Why is she not allowed to go to the battle lines? She's a woman. What's wrong with women on the battlefield? Well, nothing now, but 200 years ago. Nothing now, but 200 years. It's not appropriate. People thought they were weak, and the soldiers got scared when they saw a woman on the battlefield because they thought women needed to be protected. I'll also tell you, she didn't wear pants in those days, did she? During the candle lighting, y'all can take a look. She's got all these hoop-de-hoop skirts, right? So she's got to go to the... She's got to go to the battlefield in skirts like that, but she's not allowed. So what does she do? She asks the army for permission, and she asks until she gets it. Now, I know some of you are very good at this strategy. You keep asking until you get what you want. Who does this? What do you get? Callum, what do you get?
My brother gets video game time.
Sean, you get video game time by asking for it enough times, right? No, Tim is trying to stay strong. What else do you keep asking for that eventually the people around you are like, fine. Go ahead. What was that? Sleepovers. Keep asking until you get it, right? Okay, Kirk. Benji asked to get more screen time, right? So Clara, 200 years ago, used the same technique. It's a strategy that's worked for a long time, right? And so she asked the army for permission to go to the battlefield. They finally granted the permission, and she goes off in her buggy, pulled by 4 horses, down to a battlefield in Virginia, where the doctor is so tired and so exhausted that he's like, fine, just please take care of the soldiers. And Clara does. She bandages them, and she takes care of them, and she cooks for them. She even learns how to take out a bullet with a penknife. Can you imagine? Not fun. For 14 battles, Clara Barton takes care of soldiers on whichever side of the war they're on. She doesn't stop to ask, are you this side? Are you that side? Is this the side I agree with or the side that I disagree with? Nope, she just takes care of them. And she starts lecturing and talking. In those days, they didn't have microphones, right? So she has to talk really loudly and project her voice. So after years of doing this, her voice gets sort of kaput. It gets destroyed. And her doctor says to her, you got to go to Europe to rest. So she goes to Geneva in Switzerland, and there she learns of an international organization called the International Red Cross that was set up to take care of soldiers. And she's like, nothing like that in America. So she comes back to America, asks lawmakers until they give her what she wants, and she starts the American branch of the American Red Cross. But Clara doesn't stop there. She says, why should we only tend to soldiers? Why not anybody who's been affected by a disaster? A disaster like what? Fire, earthquake, flood, right? And so today the Red Cross serves any people who need anything. So the next time you take a CPR training course, who's done that? Yes? See the defibrillator as you go down the stairs on the wall, see a Red Cross hospital sign, open a Band-Aid box, think of Clara Barton. She is part of your universalist heritage. Here ends our story for all ages.
Good morning, Beacon. I'm Maureen Irwin. I'm a relatively new member to Beacon, still under 1 year, and I'm a happy member of the chaplain team. I am old enough to know what it's like to have to wear skirts to work. And I am designated by the maroon scarf as a chaplain here. This month, we're examining transformation. David White, the poet, says that we're always at a threshold, with an ending behind us and a beginning in front of us. Walking forward through a threshold can be as exhilarating as it can be painful, because transformation requires endings of our old way of being, of connections, of relationships, as we struggle and emerge into a new way of being. Chaplains are an extension of the ministry team. We're trained to be compassionate listeners. And if you're at a point in your current transformation that may benefit from sharing your experience and telling your story with a chaplain, please reach out to Dr. Tooley or Reverend Robin. The other thing that chaplains do is to connect our community with our candle lighting service, acknowledging our shared and individual joys and sorrows. The first candle I'd like to light this morning, in honor of Women's History Month, and because it is spring, is to honor Mother Earth. The annual but always amazing transformation of feminine energy in the spring. May we protect her. We light a candle for Alexei Navalny, who embodied the painful effort to transform his country. May that continue. We light a candle for Women's History Month, acknowledging the sheroes who shone brilliant lights that made many of our life stories possible. And we kindle a light for the human rights of women all over the world to be protected. We kindle a light for the devastating loss of life in Gaza, the death toll exceeding 30,000, 70,000 injured. We light a candle in the hope that the Israeli-Hamas war will come to an end, that aid will flow more quickly and freely into Gaza and the West Bank, and that the hostages will be returned. We continue with affirmation and solidarity of our trans and non-binary siblings across the country. We light a candle for Lachlan Riley, a Georgia student killed while running. And we acknowledge the continued violence against women, particularly Black and trans women, as we enter Women's History Month. We light a candle that Beacon member Michael O'Rogie received tenure at NYU Law School. And lastly, I'd like to light a candle for, I believe, the eldest visitor here from FUSP, our First Unitarian Society of Plainfield, Pete Jones. Welcome, Pete. Please come and light a candle for these and for your own joys and sorrows that you bring in your heart today.
practice. And we're going to modify it a little bit because we don't have as much time as you might to do it for the full hour. Unless, I mean, if you're game, we'll just, no? Okay. So we're going to read through a poem 3 times. It's entitled The Possibility in Impossibility by Nikita Gill. After the first reading, I invite you to consider what words or phrases or images maybe stay with you, call out to you. After the second reading, I invite you to turn inward and consider how you feel. How does this poem make you feel? And then the final question, what is the invitation for you from this text? So 3 readings. I'll lead us in the first. Yesterday, you spoke to me about impossibilities and how certain relationships, lives, and moments were not destined to be. For you, I collected these in hope that if you do not trust me, at least you will believe these facts from the galaxies. On Venus, and yes, I know you will find this bizarre, it snows in metal and rains in sulfuric acid, and a teaspoon of a dancing neutron star weighs more than everyone together in the world. What I'm trying to say, my darling, is that I know you said you wouldn't survive this day, but across our beautiful universe, what is impossible is happening every day. So consider a word or phrase. If you're online with us, you might put it in the chat. If you're here in the sanctuary, you might put it in your phone or write that image or phrase down. And Helen will lead us in our second reading.
Yesterday, you spoke to me about impossibilities and how certain relationships, lives, and moments were not destined to be. For you, I collected these in the hope that if you do not trust me, at least you will believe in these facts from the galaxies. On Venus, and yes, I know you will find this bizarre, it snows in metal and rains in sulfuric acid. And a teaspoon of a dancing neutron star weighs more than everyone together in the world. What I'm trying to say, my darling, is that I know you said you wouldn't survive this day. But across our beautiful universe, what is impossible is happening every day.
Breathe with me for a moment and consider, how does this feel in your body right now? What are you feeling?
Yesterday, you spoke to me about impossibilities and how certain relationships, lives, and moments were not destined to be. For you, I collected these in hope that if you do not trust me, at least you will believe these facts from the galaxies. On Venus, I know you, and yes, I know you will find this bizarre, it snows in metal and rains in sulfuric acid. And a teaspoon of a dancing neutron star weighs more than everyone together in the world. What I'm trying to say, my darling, is that I know you said you wouldn't survive this day, but across our beautiful universe, what is impossible is happening every day.
We take the question now, what is the invitation sound of our choir.
Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs too slight, feels them give way beneath her, and sings, knowing she hath wings. Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs too slight, feels them give way beneath her, and sings, knowing she hath wings. Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs too slight, feels them give way beneath her, and sings, knowing she hath wings, knowing she hath wings, knowing she hath wings, knowing she hath wings. That piece was Be Like the Bird by Abby Bettinas. And we're about to sing another song by a woman composer, and that is number 155. So I invite you to stand and rise in any way possible and join in singing Circle Round for Freedom. We definitely have a theme going today because you might have noticed during the candle lighting, you heard a great song by the amazing composer Dolly Parton. But for now, we'll sing Circle Round for Freedom. 2, 3. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for release, circle for the planet.
today, and I'm wearing a camouflage sweater in dark gray and green. I am grateful to be here with all of you today to share a little bit about my experience with Beacon, but I want to tell you a story first. I arrived at Miami International Airport in 1988 as a shy child of 12, feeling sad to have left good friends behind and nervous about a new life in a new country. My father, who'd come ahead to figure out living arrangements, greeted me at the terminal with a giant teddy bear, which I hugged to my chest and which I still have to this day, a comfort in the chaos. As a young immigrant in this country, I was often asked why I had an accent, where I was from, and what had brought me here. These questions were not meant to be offensive and generally stemmed from friendly banter or a genuine curiosity about my background, but the fact is they served to make me feel different when all I wanted was to be the same. Eventually describing myself as a hyphen American meant I was never quite one thing or the other, not feeling uniquely American to some, yet too gringa for others. Even within my family, I didn't always fit in. In a family of mathematicians, accountants, and bankers, my interest in writing, acting, and dance seemed misplaced. After college, I moved to New York City, where for the first time, I felt a sense of belonging. I will always be grateful to the city that embraced me, celebrates differences, exposed me to the arts, and allowed me to feel, finally, like I belonged. But after moving to the New Jersey suburbs, I felt lost once again. Where were my people? Who even were my people? The pandemic only exacerbated this feeling, prompting a desperate search for something that felt meaningful, a place to land, where I could feed my spirit and my mind, and where my family could feel at home. A friend suggested I explore Beacon. I started attending services online in 2020 and was happy to join in person once those resumed. From our Reverend's powerful words, to religious education, to our beloved coffee hour, we've each found something special at Beacon. My father passed away in January of last year, and the support I received here touched me deeply. Beacon was, and continues to be, much like the teddy bear Dad gave me, a comfort in the chaos.
Thank you so much, Betty, for sharing your testimonial and moreover for the light you and your family bring to make this our beacon. Our morning offering, beloved, will now be most gratefully received.
This morning's reading comes from A Feminist Ethic of Risk by Sharon Welsh. It is easier to give up on long-term social change when one is comfortable in the present, when it is possible to have challenging work, excellent health care and housing, and access to fine arts. When the good life is present or within reach, it is tempting to despair of its ever being in reach for others and resort merely to enjoying it for oneself and one's family. The ethic of risk is characterized by three elements, each of which is essential to maintain resistance in the face of overwhelming odds. A redefinition of responsible action, grounding in community, and strategic risk-taking.
It's March, which means, beloved, we've just started a month of transformation. Transformation, a word that goes to the center of proposed changes to Article 2. That's where our Unitarian Universalist principles, our purposes, our values reside. Well, they don't reside there. They reside in us, but they're written there. The proposal, which the whole denomination is going to be voting on this summer in June, has transformation proposed in two places. The first is in the very purpose of our association. The purpose of the Unitarian Universalist Association, quote, is to actively engage its members in the transformation of the world. The transformation of the world through liberating love. It is also one of the values that are listed. Transformation. We adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. Now, I like to think of myself as someone who's open to change, who's kind of a hopeful, positive person. But even I, when I read this, heard transformation of the world? We're gonna do that? And even if you aren't glued to the news, you are undoubtedly still aware of the wars that are raging the world over, including the devastation of life in Gaza. You are certainly aware of interpersonal violence throughout our country, of rising poverty, of the climate crisis, let alone the global rise of fascism, as Pablo Vasquez, our intern minister, preached on. It would be a little hard to say that we live in transformative times. It might even be hard to say at this present moment that you feel like transformation is within belief, let alone reach. When I got this month's packets to review for our small group ministry that Sarah and Marianne put together and just do a wonderful job with, I have to say, when I saw the theme was transformation, I was like, improvement. Maybe we go for improvement this month as a theme. Micro change. How about micro change? That sounds approachable. We're going to ask our small groups to talk about transformation. But you know what? This is Women's History Month. Darn it. And our theme is transformation, darn it. So let's do this, okay? It's hard. Thank you. Thanks, Kathy. It's hard to talk about Women's History Month without even touching at all on feminism and womanism. As you might imagine, in my household, feminism is a lively topic. We even discussed the waves of feminism. First wave that focused on opportunities for women and the right to vote, that's right, suffrage. Second wave that largely focused on equal opportunities, ending discrimination, and creating, it's in the 60s and 70s, equality. The third wave, which saw increasing diversity within feminism, and the rise of womanism, the truth-telling of Black women as well as gender identity diversity, and the concept that is in our own covenant of intersectionality created by Kimberly Crenshaw. Some say a fourth wave emerged around 2012 or so, noting the fight against body shaming and rape culture, which is a term that I loathe, like white supremacy culture, because I don't think it's culture. Do you? I agree, we need a better word there. Yeah. At any rate, in our home, we kind of geek out on feminism and even say things to one another throughout the day like, "That's so second wave feminism of you." You do this at your home too, right? It's just, Kathy won't even make eye contact with me. Needless to say, Sharon Welch is a known name in our household. Welch, who is the author of A Feminist Ethic of Risk and the source of our reading this day, a philosopher, a Unitarian Universalist, a professor who taught theology and religion and society at Harvard and later became the provost of Meadville Lombard Theological School, Unitarian Universalist Seminary. Welch illuminates what I think is a productive path in the pursuit of transformation. In her work, she develops this feminist ethic of risk, but she says it's a little bit of a misnomer because it's not rooted solely in feminism. This ethic of risk is really born of liberation movements, including womanism. Welch begins her work by asking a question that is apt for our own time, though she first wrote this book decades ago. She asks, how does a movement persist in the face of partial victories and continued defeats? Anyone feel like there have been some partial victories and continued defeats lately? She answers that there are three elements of practicing an ethic of risk for a movement to persist in the face of partial victories and continued defeats. The first is a redefinition of responsible action. Now, Welch says that Western philosophy and a lot of kind of middle-class culture tends to focus on taking risks where the outcome is predictable. Meaning, a responsible action is one where you can control the outcome. But Welch pushes back against this. She says that what this creates is kind of an inability to act in the face of large-scale problems. She uses the example of food insecurity. She said if you talk within middle-class groups of folks about food insecurity, you will hear them begin to feel defeated before even beginning to act on the problem because they talk about how massive it is and just everyone starts, you've probably been in conversations like this or heard it. Well, it's just so big and you know, if you just, and it's getting worse and it's exponential and what can be done and now in the global rise and on and on and on. And even Welch says sometimes what this leads to is a criticism of any action because it's not perfect. It doesn't solve the whole problem. So it's even kind of ridiculed. Like a food bank? Giving out food? Well, that's a Band-Aid to the massive wound. Maybe you've even felt stuck in this kind of reasoning sometimes. The ridicule of small action in the face of massive problem. Instead, Welch says that responsible action does not mean the certain achievement of desired ends, but the creation of a matrix in which further actions are possible. The creation of the conditions of possibility. In easier language, responsible action creates more possibilities for further actions and is not at all about control, but about the opposite. Releasing the possibilities of more and more change, not refusing to do the one thing you can do, but seeing it as the beginning of a matrix of things that will be done. And here's where I think of the first Unitarian food pantry. now the Beacon, First Unitarian Food Pantry. And I think of the ministry in particular, and she doesn't know I'm about to say her name. Sorry, Joanne. Joanne Macaluso and Maisha James, where instead of seeing the impossibility of food insecurity, they have put together month after month with many volunteers and leaders and vision a community of care, a community of mutuality, respect, and resource. Now, is it perfect? Joanne, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. I thought you might say that. But it has opened a matrix of possibilities, a ripple effect of actions, inspiring others and now inspiring within Beacon, new relationships, forming, community expanding, and resources growing. The Beacon First Unitarian Food Pantry tells us not to lament the impossibility, but to take up what is possible and real in the here and now. The second of Welch's principles is grounding in community. Now, she says it's not just a kind of community where you get together and you all say hello and you don't ever have a deeper conversation and then you're done and you come back together a week later. She said, I'm talking about something different. She says this kind of community must have material interactions between multiple communities with different principles, norms, mores, morally transformative interaction. I love that. That is like a $10 seminary phrase. Morally transformative interaction requires far more than conversation. Genuine conversation presupposes prior material interaction, either political conflict, coalition, or life-sustaining work. I consider the story here of Clara Barton and how people who transform the world do not do it alone. In Women's History Month, I would challenge you to find a woman where there is not a community behind her. Movements are not led by a single person, and people don't just come out of thin air. On every battlefield and operating table, at the international courts, and before audiences of thousands, Clara Barton did not go alone. She brought her Universalist community with her. In the words of the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker, individually, we cannot defeat the world's great evils, but together, that is another possibility waiting. The third quality is strategic risk. It's connected to the first two, kind of wraps them together and adds a little bit. We don't risk, you see, for the sake of our egos or wins, but out of the foundation of community and with the awareness that we risk things without knowing the outcomes. In 2017, in the middle of July, I found myself in our nation's capital. A lovely time to be in Washington, D.C., if you know their weather. Quite balmy. I was there because you might remember that was the summer when there was a fervent attempt to dismantle the Affordable Care Act. Does anybody remember this? They started calling it the zombie bill because every time it would get defeated, it would come back to life. And so I was back and forth between New Jersey and D.C. that whole summer. And finally, we had thought we really defeated it. I had just gotten back to New Jersey when my phone rang. I hadn't slept in almost 48 hours. And the call came in to let me know that not only had they rewritten and reworked the bill, but it was going to be introduced in 2 days. And they had the votes to get it passed. It would effectively defeat the Affordable Care Act as we knew it. So I got back on a train, not in a car. I wasn't going to drive in that condition. And made my way back to D.C. I gathered the core organizers that we had been working together with, and we talked about what to do. It was clear that a march around the Capitol or another prayer vigil wasn't going to work this time. Already ADAPT activists, disability activists, you probably had seen some of these images, had locked their wheelchairs in the halls of Congress and had been pulled out and imprisoned. We knew that we needed something that was going to be visible to the whole country, which was hard because you can't bring cameras inside of Congress. But I had an idea, and it was an incredibly risky idea. So I gathered those organizers, and I explained it to them, and I turned to a transgender woman who was in a wheelchair. She lives in public housing, because I wanted her opinion most of all, because she would be taking the greatest risk in this action, because she could lose her housing over it, depending upon how it turned out. I said, here's the plan. I think I can get us passes into the Senate gallery, and I think we can be there when they call the vote, when Mitch McConnell hits the gavel. And I know that those C-SPAN cameras take about a minute to turn off. So we would have a minute to give public testimony about the impact of passing this bill, and they wouldn't be able to pull the plug. It would run on C-SPAN. We would get at least a minute of time across the country. And once it was out there, it couldn't be retracted. We wouldn't have to bring our own cameras in. But I said, this is a serious thing to do. You could go to jail for a very long time. You could lose your housing. I don't know where they will take you. I don't know when we will be able to get you out. And because I need to help get everyone out, I can't go in with you. The circle got very quiet. And in that quiet, I became very nervous. So I started saying, well, if you want me to get an attorney to talk to you, and it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. It's just, no, we shouldn't do it. There's too many things we can't predict. It was then that this woman spoke up and said, as she smiled, it's worth the risk. When do we start? So we gathered early the next morning. We were able to get the passes to the Senate gallery. We made our way into the Senate gallery, and this was the time, if you recall, that Senator McCain had begun treatment for cancer. And he had just flown back for the vote, and everyone thought that it was likely he would vote in favor. And he came into the Senate floor to applause. Of course, all of his colleagues were so glad he, was physically well enough to be there. And then McConnell hit the gavel and started the debate on the bill. And that was when our group started giving testimony. And they concluded by chanting, "Kill the bill, don't kill us." The Senate floor fell completely silent. McConnell started looking to his left and to his right, trying to figure out what to do, but even the officers who were supposed to be removing everyone from the gallery didn't move. And we got well over a minute on those cameras. It took a long time to remove everyone from the Senate gallery as Senator McConnell motioned rapidly to the officers to get going. Everything settled down again. They started debate, and that's when the second wave started. And my friend who said it was worth the risk gave testimony before the entire Senate, a place that she had been shut out from and prevented from speaking to her own senator. She gave testimony across the country, and the cameras kept rolling. After the second wave, I left the gallery, and we began the frenzied work of attorneys calling, figuring out where folks had been taken, what the charges would be, and the Senate continued their debate deep into the night. It was about 2 a.m. when we had everyone that we could get out of jail out, and we knew the times of the arraignments the next day for the others. So I made my way back to my hotel room, exhausted. It was about 2 in the morning, and they were just starting the vote. My phone rang, turn on the TV. So I watched the vote proceeding, and I was counting, and it wasn't looking good. This bill was going to pass. It was then that Senator McCain came into the center of the Senate floor, who everyone believed was going to vote in favor of this bill, and he stuck his hand out and turned his thumb down. The bill was dead. What was more important than just that bill dying is that Senator McCain started speaking out against it. A respected senator, and they had no pathway forward, an outcome we never could have predicted, that no one thought was possible just 48 hours before. I kept thinking about my friend and colleague's words, "It's worth the risk." How do you know, I thought? I mean, what if that hadn't happened? How do you know it's worth the risk? We had years of litigation following that action. People's whole lives were upended, jobs and housing threatened. How do you know it's worth the risk? And then I realized she was using a different equation than I was. She wasn't calculating the win on the bill. She was waging on transformation. She was living into the impossibility. Everything that said that that woman should not have spoken, that should have been terrified, she should have been silenced. And instead, she shouted her truth in the balcony of the U.S. Senate. And it changed our country. It changed what we thought was possible. Now, we didn't win all the battles after that, and we had to engage in a lot of legal fees. But beloved, I want to tell you it was worth the risk. It was worth the risk to act with responsibility for our community and with our community. It was worth the risk to, in the words of the poet Gill, dwell in the impossible, to be a people of transformation, not just improvement, to have a hope with fuel. Beloved, we may not know the outcome or the way to win. We can't control everything that is going to happen this day or the days that follow, but we can be a beacon. We can be a beacon in a community where at the end of our lives we can say we were a people of transformation, a people awake enough to say that we witnessed what is impossible happening every day. And we dared, out of that liberating love, to live lives worth the risk of living. So may we live, so may we love, so may we liberate. Trust me, it's worth the risk.
And if you look at this handout, you will see that on the front, there is actually the music there so that you can be aided in learning the tune. And then also on the back, there's a number of music events coming up, plus a little bit of an explanation about joining the choir. And I know that as we sing this song, we'll all be in the choir. Thank you, the Sopranos and Altos of the choir, for singing with us today. That was beautiful. Thank you, John, for lending your talent and your skill and your musicality. I invite you all to rise in any way possible and join in singing this song, Where You Go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go.
Would you take hands with one another, beloved, as we close our time together, but not our community or our light? Even as we extinguish this chalice, that light goes on. And so may the love that is our source and ultimate return, may it hold you, may it lead you, may it animate your life for all the days we are given. Until we meet again, beloved, blessed may you be. Amen.
Amen.